You ever have one of those childhood memories that just doesn't quite add up? Something from pop culture that, looking back, feels like a weird dream? Well, today we are untangling one of the strangest stories to come out of the 1980s. It's a tale of two cartoons, a massive movie, and a Hollywood irony that is just wow. Let's get into it.
And it really all comes down to this one absolutely bizarre question. How in the world did Garfield, the lazy, lasagna-loving cartoon cat, get one of the Ghostbusters fired from his own show? I know, it sounds impossible, but stick with me, because the real story is even weirder than you can imagine.
So to really understand how we got here, we've got to jump in the time machine and head back. We're going to the summer of 1984, which was, and I'm not exaggerating, one of the most legendary summers for movies ever. And get this for a cosmic coincidence. In a summer packed with hits like Indiana Jones and The Karate Kid, two of the biggest, most iconic blockbusters, Ghostbusters and Gremlins, both came out on the exact same day, June 8, 1984. For a kid back then, it was just a total pop culture explosion. But for me, I was 9 years old, and seeing Ghostbusters for the first time, not so much fun. That librarian ghost was so unbelievably terrifying that my friend and I actually bailed. We left the theater before the movie was even over. But about a year later, I gave it another shot. And this time, without being scared out of my mind, I saw it for what it was. An absolutely brilliant comedy. It pretty much instantly became one of my all-time favorite movies. Okay, so now let's jump forward to 1986. Imagine the excitement, right? Your favorite movie is getting a cartoon. You race home from school, you check the TV guide, and there it is, Ghostbusters. You think, yes, the moment I've been waiting for. So you turn on the TV, and it's a complete train wreck. Everything is wrong. This is not the Ghostbusters you know and love. The feeling isn't just confusion. It's like genuine anger. What is this show?
And the questions just keep coming. Who are these characters? Why is the theme song different? That's not the Ecto one. And wait a minute, is that a gorilla? Yes, a gorilla is on the team. This was the baffling scene that greeted kids all across America.
And this right here, this explains everything. On the left, you've got the show that aired first, Filmation's Ghostbusters, with the weird crew and yes, the talking gorilla. And on the right, you have the show everyone was actually waiting for, which, because of all this, had to be called the real Ghostbusters. So how on earth did this even happen? How do you get two different cartoons with pretty much the same name on the air at the same time? Well, the answer is buried in this really tangled web of copyright law that actually started more than 10 years earlier. Okay, so here's the breakdown. Way back in 1975, this animation studio called Filmation had a silly live-action kids show called The Ghostbusters. It didn't last long. Then, in 1984, when Columbia Pictures wanted to make their movie, they had to actually pay Filmation for the rights to use the name. But then, when the movie became this massive hit, Filmation realized, hey, we're sitting on a gold mine. So they rushed out their own cartoon based on their old 1975 show, and they managed to get it on the air less than 2 weeks before the official movie cartoon premiered. So, okay, that solves the mystery of the two cartoons. But now we're going to focus in on the real Ghostbusters cartoon, because that's where our second, and honestly even stranger, mystery starts. And it all comes down to a very, very familiar voice.
So, in the real Ghostbusters, the voice of Peter Venkman was done by a fantastic voice actor named Lorenzo Music. And he was perfect. I mean, he absolutely nailed that dry, sarcastic, kind of lazy delivery that Bill Murray made famous in the movie.
Now, if you were watching TV in the 70s or 80s, you definitely knew Lorenzo Music's voice, even if you didn't know his name. He was super famous for playing Carlton the doorman on the sitcom Rhoda. He was a huge character on the show, but you only ever heard his voice over an intercom. You never, ever saw his face.
But his most famous role, the voice that an entire generation of kids associate with one character, was Garfield the cat. Lorenzo Music was Garfield. For millions of us, you just couldn't separate that voice from that character.
So now we've got all the pieces in place, right? We have Peter Venkman, the cartoon Ghostbuster. We have Garfield, the iconic cartoon cat, and they both have the exact same voice provided by the same guy. This is where the story takes a turn that you couldn't make it up. So, the story goes that Bill Murray, the original movie Peter Venkman, just happened to see the cartoon one day. And he made this casual, offhand remark to someone saying that Venkman's voice on the show kind of sounded like Garfield. Just an observation.
He probably had no idea it was literally the same actor.
But you know how things go in Hollywood. Word of this comment snakes its way back to the producers of the real Ghostbusters, and they don't hear it as a simple observation. No, they hear it as a complaint coming from the movie's biggest star. Just one little comment, one simple misunderstanding, and that's all it took for the producers to make a huge and completely unnecessary decision.
Because of that misunderstanding, they fired Lorenzo Music. But here it is, the biggest, most unbelievable twist of this whole thing. Years later, in 2004, they make a live-action Garfield movie. And who do they cast to be the voice of the CGI cat? Bill Murray, the guy whose comment got the voice of Garfield fired from playing a character based on him, ended up playing Garfield himself. The irony is just, it's perfect.
And that whole casting fiasco, it was just one of many changes that started to happen to the real Ghostbusters. And for a lot of fans, it really marked the beginning of the end for what was once a fantastic show. See, the network started interfering. They decided the show needed to be less scary for the really little kids. They took the cool, sarcastic character of Janine and made her more motherly. And they wanted more Slimer. Then more Slimer. Then so much Slimer that they actually renamed the show Slimer and the Real Ghostbusters. That, combined with replacing Lorenzo Music, just took away a lot of the magic that made the show so great to begin with. And that is how Garfield got a Ghostbuster fired. It's an insane story of copyright law, wild coincidences, and just cosmic levels of irony. It really makes you realize that sometimes the stories happening behind the scenes of our favorite shows are even crazier than the cartoons themselves. Makes you wonder, what other wild stories are hiding just under the surface of stuff we all grew up with?